Her father's gambling debt was $2 million. She was the payment. Sold to twin Korean mafia bosses who made it clear from day one, she didn't belong to one of them. She belonged to both. Before we begin, besties, please don't forget to like and subscribe. You're supporting us this way, and we promise to bring interesting stories to your screens every single day. Nadia's hands would not stop trembling. Today was officially the worst day of her life. 72 hours ago, she'd been teaching English at a modest school, planning her weekend, living her small, steady life. Now she was being chauffeured to meet the men she had been traded to. Traded, sold, like livestock, like an object. Your father made a terrible mistake, her wicked stepmother had said 4 days earlier, her voice shaking, her face drained of color. He borrowed $2 million from the Song twins, Korean mafia, extremely dangerous men. He gambled everything away. He cannot repay them. They've agreed to wipe the debt, but only on one condition. What condition? Nadia had asked, even though some part of her heart already knew the answer. You. They want you to marry them. Them? She blinked, certain she misunderstood. Both of them? Both? She confirmed, defeated. It's either this, or they kill your father. And after that, they'll still come for you. At 24, Nadia had dreamed of love, real love. She'd grown up on romance novels and Nollywood fantasies, imagining a partnership built on tenderness, respect, and genuine affection. One man, one love, one wedding she chose. Not whatever this was. The car rolled through towering iron gates and into an estate that looked like it had been plucked straight from an upscale Korean drama. The mansion was a striking display of glass, steel, and impossible luxury. Manicured gardens stretched endlessly, and a sparkling fountain stood proudly at the center of the circular driveway. 2 men were waiting at the entrance, identical twins, each sinfully handsome in that dangerous, breathtaking way that made Nadia's heart stutter even through her fear. Early 30s, tall, well over 6 feet, and built like men who had both money and muscle. Their dark suits looked tailored to perfection, whispering of wealth and violence. Yet their energies could not have been more different. The twin on the left smiled the moment the driver opened her door. Warm, bright, disarming. His entire face softened with genuine warmth, and when he spoke, his voice carried a surprising gentleness. You must be Nadia. I'm Jae-sung. Welcome to Seoul. Welcome home. Home, as if she had chosen this, as if she wasn't being delivered like a parcel. The twin on the right didn't bother with a smile. His expression remained cold, analytical, his dark eyes scanning her as though evaluating every possible weakness. When he finally spoke, his voice was low, controlled, unquestionable. I'm Hyun. Come inside. We need to discuss the rules. Not a greeting. A decree. Nadia's knees felt weak as she climbed the marble steps. The driver carried her one worn-out suitcase. Everything she owned packed into a single fading bag. These men probably had closets larger than her entire flat. Inside was even worse. Ceilings that soared high above her. Modern art worth more than she could earn in a lifetime. Furniture that looked like museum pieces. Everything perfect. Everything polished. Everything expensive. And yet, it all felt hollow. They led her to a living room with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the glittering city below. Sit, Hyun said, gesturing to a white leather sofa. Nadia sat, feeling like a child being disciplined. Jae-sung sat beside her, not too close, giving her space. He still wore that gentle smile. You must be exhausted. 14-hour flight. Would you like something to eat? Drink? We can get you anything you need. I want to go home, Nadia whispered. This is your home now. Hyun said flatly, remaining standing. The sooner you accept that reality, the easier your life will be. Hyun, Jae-sung said quietly. A warning. Hyun's jaw tightened, but he said nothing more. Let me explain the situation clearly, Jae-sung continued, his tone still gentle. Your father borrowed $2 million from our organization. He used that money to gamble. He lost everything. He cannot repay the debt. In our world, that debt transfers to family. I haven't spoken to my father in 2 years, Nadia said, her voice breaking. I didn't even know he was gambling again. I can't be responsible for— It doesn't matter what you knew, Hyun interrupted coldly. The debt exists. You're his daughter. Therefore it's yours. But I don't have $2 million. I'm a teacher. I make barely enough to— We know exactly what you make, Hyun cut her off. 150,000 naira per month. Roughly $350 USD. You have 28,000 naira in savings. You live in a 1-bedroom flat in Surulere. You send money to your mother every month even though you can barely afford it. You buy second-hand books. You take the bus everywhere. Cold spread through Nadia's body. You've been watching me. For 2 months, Hyun confirmed. We needed to understand who we were acquiring. Acquiring, Nadia repeated bitterly. Like I'm merchandise. You're a payment for a debt, Hyun said simply. That's the reality. Accept it or don't. Either way, you're staying. What my brother means, Jae-sung said with a sharp look at Hyun, is that we're offering you a solution that benefits everyone. Marry us. Stay here in Seoul. Be our wife. In exchange, your father's debt is completely forgiven. You'll have everything you need. Security, comfort, safety. You'll want for nothing. Except freedom, Nadia said. Freedom to do what? Hyun asked. Work yourself to exhaustion? Live paycheck to paycheck? Worry constantly about money? We're offering you a better life. A life where I'm owned by 2 strangers. Temporarily strangers, Jae-sung said gently. We'd like that to change. We'd like to know you. To build something real. Why both of you? Nadia demanded. This is insane. Marriage doesn't work like this. It works however we say it works, Hyun said. We're twins. We've shared everything our entire lives. We're not interested in dividing our life between 2 separate wives. We want one wife. Together. I don't understand what that means. It means, Jae-sung explained carefully, that you won't belong to just one of us. You'll belong to both of us. Equally. Completely. There's no choosing between us. No favorites. No dividing yourself. You're ours. Together. That's not how relationships work. It's how ours works, Hyun said. And you agreed to it the moment you stepped on that plane. I didn't agree to anything. I was forced. Semantics, Hyun dismissed. You're here. You're staying. The wedding is in 1 week. A designer will come tomorrow to fit you for a dress. You'll begin Korean lessons immediately. You'll learn our customs, our expectations, our world. And if I refuse? If I run? The twins exchanged a glance, some wordless twin communication. You won't, Hyun said with absolute certainty. Because you're not stupid enough to think you'd make it past the front gate. And because you know exactly what will happen to your father if you do. He was right. Nadia wasn't stupid. And she couldn't condemn her father to death, no matter how much she hated him right now. Can I at least call my mother? Nadia asked, her voice hollow. Let her know I'm alive? Of course, Jae-sung said immediately. We're not monsters, Nadia. We just have unconventional requirements. Show her to her room, Hyun told his brother. Make sure she understands the security protocols. I have business to attend to. He left without another word, taking all the cold with him. Jae-sung stood, offering his hand. Come on, Your room is ready. I think you'll like it. Nadia didn't take his hand. She stood on her own and followed him up a sweeping staircase. Her room was bigger than her entire apartment back home. Enormous bed. Bathroom with a tub that could fit 4 people. Walk-in closet already filled with expensive clothes in her exact size. Windows overlooking gardens that looked like something from a magazine. Hyun's room is on your right, Jae-sung said, pointing. Mine is on your left. We wanted you between us, so you'd feel protected. Protected or trapped? Nadia asked bitterly. Hopefully both, Jae-sung said honestly. Look, I know this is terrifying. I know you didn't choose this. But Nadia, we're not going to hurt you. We're going to take care of you. If you let us. Why are you being nice to me if you're just going to force me to marry you anyway? Because kindness doesn't cost anything, Jae-sung said simply. And because I want you to see that this doesn't have to be hell. It could even be good. Eventually. He left her alone. Nadia sat on the massive bed in her gilded cage and cried until she had nothing left. 1 week until she married 2 strangers. 1 week until her life as she knew it ended forever. 1 week until she became the property of the Song twins. She had no idea that 1 week was just the beginning of a story that would span years, that the men she feared would become the men she loved, that the cage would become her sanctuary. But she'd learn. The twins are beautiful, Nadia's mother said over video call, her eyes misty as she looked at her grandsons. What did you name them? Ezra and Elijah, Nadia said, adjusting 1-year-old Ezra on her hip while Elijah slept in a bassinet beside her. After my grandfather and yours. The twins let you choose Nigerian names? They insisted on it, Nadia said softly. They wanted the boys to know both sides of their heritage. It had been 2 years since the wedding. 2 years since she'd stood in a traditional Korean ceremony and married both Song brothers in front of officials who'd been paid enough to overlook the unconventional arrangement. 2 years since she'd gone from hating them to something much more complicated. You look happy, her mother observed. Truly happy. Not pretending anymore. I am happy, Nadia admitted. I know that sounds insane. I know I should still be angry about how this started. But Mama, they're good to me. They're good fathers. And She paused, still struggling with the words. I love them. Both of them. Her mother smiled. Love doesn't always arrive the way we expect. Sometimes it creeps up on us when we're not looking. After the call ended, Nadia found both her husbands in the nursery, staring down at their sleeping sons with identical expressions of wonder. They're perfect, Jae-sung said softly. They're ours, Hyun added, something vulnerable in his voice that rarely appeared. Over 2 years, Nadia had learned the truth about the Song twins. Jae-sung was exactly what he appeared, warm, gentle, nurturing. He made her laugh, brought her tea every morning, sang to the babies even though he couldn't carry a tune. He was joy personified, the lightness in her life. Hyun was more complex, cold to the world but surprisingly tender with her, fiercely protective. He'd stand between her and any threat without hesitation. He was intensity and passion, the fire that kept her warm and occasionally burned. She loved them differently, completely, and had finally stopped feeling guilty about it. Nadia, Hyun said, turning to face her, we need to discuss security. Again? Nadia sighed. They were always discussing security, constantly paranoid about threats. The Lee family has been making moves, Jae-sung explained. They're trying to expand into our territory. They might see you and the boys as leverage. You mean targets? Nadia said flatly. We're increasing security around the estate, Hyun said. And I want guards with you whenever you leave. No exceptions. The boys are barely a year old, Hyun. Who's going to threaten babies? People who want to hurt us, Hyun said grimly. Welcome to our world. But Nadia had been in their world for 2 years now. She understood the danger, the constant threats, the price of being married to men who ruled the criminal underworld. What she didn't understand, what she couldn't have predicted, was just how far those threats would go. It happened 3 months later. Nadia was in the garden with the twins, now 16 months old and starting to walk. Jae-sung was at a business meeting. Hyun was in his office. 4 guards surrounded the garden perimeter. She heard the gunshots before she understood what was happening. Then chaos, shouting, more gunshots, guards falling. Nadia scooped up both boys and ran toward the house, her heart hammering, her only thought protecting her children. She made it to the door before someone grabbed her from behind. Got her! A man shouted in Korean. Nadia screamed, clutching her babies. Ezra started crying. Elijah joined him. Shut them up! Another voice commanded. No! Nadia shouted. Don't touch them. Please. They're just babies. A hand clamped over her mouth. She was dragged backward, away from the house, her boys crying in her arms. Then Hyun appeared like an avenging angel, gun raised, fury incarnate. Let them go. Drop your weapon or I snap her neck, the man holding Nadia said calmly. You'll be dead before you manage it, Hyun replied, his voice deadly calm. Along with every member of your family, your children, your parents, everyone you've ever cared about. I will erase your entire bloodline. Do you understand me? The man hesitated. Last chance, Hyun said. Release my wife and children. Now. The man shoved Nadia forward. She stumbled, barely keeping her grip on the twins. Hyun shot him before he hit the ground. More gunfire, more bodies falling. Then Jae-sung was there too, having arrived mid-crisis, taking the babies from Nadia's arms while Hyun checked her for injuries. Are you hurt? Hyun demanded, his hands frantically roaming over her. Did they hurt you? The boys? We're okay, Nadia gasped. We're okay? They didn't? They came for you, Hyun said, his voice shaking with rage. They came for our children. Who? Nadia asked. The Lee family, Jae-sung said grimly, holding both crying boys against his chest. This is war now. That night, after the boys were finally asleep and the estate was swarming with additional security, Nadia found both her husbands in Hyun's office. We're ending this, Hyun was saying into his phone in Korean. I don't care what it costs. The Lee family is finished. We should go to the authorities, Nadia said from the doorway. Both twins turned to look at her. The authorities won't touch the Lee family, Jae-sung explained. They're too powerful, too connected. Then we make them powerful enough to matter, Nadia insisted. You have evidence, don't you? Of their crimes? Use it. Give it to the police, the FBI, whoever can actually arrest them. That would expose us too, Hyun said. Then expose yourselves, Nadia shot back. Go legitimate. You're always talking about transitioning the business. Do it. Now. For your sons. So they don't grow up in this constant danger. The twins exchanged one of their wordless looks. She's right, Jae-sung said finally. We've been talking about going legitimate for years. Maybe it's time we actually did it. It won't be quick, Hyun warned, or easy. We'll lose power, influence, respect. But we'll have our family, Jae-sung countered. Safe. Alive. Isn't that worth more? Hyun looked at Nadia, then at the ceiling where their son slept 2 floors above. Yes, it is. Over the next 2 years, the Song twins systematically dismantled their criminal empire. They gave evidence to federal investigators, carefully curated evidence that took down their rivals while protecting themselves. The Lee family was arrested en masse. Others followed. They transitioned their legitimate businesses, real estate, technology, imports, into their primary focus. They paid massive fines to authorities. They made deals. It wasn't easy. Some of their organization refused to go legitimate and had to be handled. Some threatened retaliation. Some simply disappeared. But slowly, painfully, the Song twins became legitimate businessmen. And through it all, Nadia stood beside them. She learned Korean fluently. She hosted business dinners. She smiled at people who'd once terrified her and made small talk about markets and investments instead of territory and violence. She also got pregnant again. A girl, the doctor said at the 20-week ultrasound. Nadia burst into tears. Jae-sung whooped with joy. Even Hyun smiled, that rare, genuine smile he reserved for moments of pure happiness. "A daughter," he said quietly. "We're having a daughter." "You're going to be so overprotective," Nadia teased through her tears. "Absolutely." Both men agreed without shame. Their daughter, they named her Zara after Nadia's grandmother, was born healthy and perfect. The boys, now 3 years old, were obsessed with their baby sister. "Gentle," Ezra said carefully, patting Zara's tiny hand. "She's so small," Elijah observed with wonder. "You were that small once," Jae-sung told them. "That's impossible," Ezra declared. "We've always been big." Nadia laughed, watching her family, and felt overwhelming gratitude. 4 years ago, she'd been dragged to Seoul as payment for a debt, forced to marry 2 strangers, terrified and alone. Now she had 3 children, 2 husbands who loved her completely, a home that felt safe. "What are you thinking?" Hyun asked, appearing beside her. "That I'm happy," Nadia admitted. "Impossibly, insanely happy." "Even though we forced you to marry us?" Jae-sung asked, joining them. "Especially because of that," Nadia said. "Because if you hadn't, I'd never have known this was possible. That I could love 2 people so completely. That my heart was big enough for all of this. Best debt we ever collected," Hyun said with a slight smile. "Best investment we ever made," Jae-sung agreed. "I'm not an investment," Nadia protested, laughing. "No," Hyun said seriously. "You're our wife, our partner, the mother of our children. You're everything." Nadia stood in the garden watching her 5 children play. Ezra and Elijah, now 8, were playing soccer. Zara, 5, was building something with blocks. The newest additions, twin girls, 3 years old, named Amara and Naomi, were chasing butterflies and shrieking with laughter. 5 children, Jae-sung said, wrapping his arms around her from behind. "Who would have thought?" "We're lucky they're all healthy," Hyun added, standing beside them. "And that you survived 5 pregnancies." "I'm stronger than I look," Nadia teased. "We know," both men said in unison. It had been 9 years since that terrifying flight to Seoul. 9 years since she'd been sold to pay her father's debt. The Song family was now completely legitimate. Hyun and Jae-sung ran a successful conglomerate of businesses. They were respected in Seoul's business community. Wealthy but not feared. Powerful but not dangerous. Well, not as dangerous. "Do you ever regret it?" Jae-sung asked. "How we started? What we took from you?" Nadia was quiet for a moment, thinking. "I regret not having a choice at the beginning. I regret the fear and anger. But regret this?" She gestured at their children, their home, their life. "Regret us? Never." "We took everything from you," Hyun said quietly. "Your freedom, your choice, your life, as you knew it." "And gave me everything in return," Nadia countered. "A family, love, children, a life I never could have imagined. Yes, I wish it had started differently, but I wouldn't change where we ended up." "You're extraordinary," Jae-sung said, kissing her temple. You're ours, Hyun added. Completely. Eternally. And you're both mine, Nadia replied. My sun and my moon. My joy and my fire. My home. That evening, after the children were finally in bed, the three of them sat on the balcony overlooking Seoul's glittering skyline. Sometimes I can't believe this is real, Nadia admitted. That I get to have this. Have you. Have all of it. It's real, Jae-sung assured her. And it's yours, Hyun added, for as long as you want it. Forever then, Nadia said. I want it forever. Then forever it is, both men said. And, as Seoul sparkled below them, as their children slept safely in their beds, as two men held the woman they'd claimed and learned to love, Nadia understood a fundamental truth. Love doesn't have to arrive the way you expect. Sometimes it's forced on you. Sometimes you fight it. Sometimes you have no choice. But if you're brave enough to let it in, if you're strong enough to love beyond boundaries and rules and expectations, your heart can hold infinite love. She loved two men. Differently. Completely. And they loved her back. Their unconventional family was proof that love doesn't divide. It multiplies.